All right. All right. Good morning. How's everyone today? It is, I feel like my head's crooked still. It is a new moon in Sagittarius, the Archer. My moon is in Sagittarius. So maybe that's why I was feeling spicy yesterday. Just trying to re-upload the video from yesterday and I was having technical difficulties trying to figure that out this morning. Anyway, good morning. So today is kind of I usually don't have an advance that I'm going to talk about, but today's going to be a little bit of a continuation of yesterday. Yes, somebody mentioned yesterday that seeing this reminded them to drink their super reds. So every morning I drink this powder, but antioxidants mixed with a probiotic. Let me just say, it keeps the body smooth. All right, so level up. Now you're gonna have Ciara's song playing in your head. There's a couple of things that I would love to talk about. And I'll see if I get to them all because I'm a little late this morning, so it might be a little abbreviated. So the first thing is about our fear of moving from one stage of life to the next. I noticed this yesterday. I talked about it in my stories on Instagram. For some reason, those stories wouldn't post to Facebook. In my Instagram stories. So I switched my phone provider yesterday. I was with Metro, and like Metro, Boost, Cricket, all great, right? Like I have no complaints about any of those services. They are inexpensive for a reason, and they fit a particular budget. It was now time for me to make a switch and do something different that was going to cost a little bit more money, but was going to give me the insurance protections I needed and the ability to use my phone when I travel, right? Because there's travel coming up in 2021, thankfully. And I thought about, as I'm on the phone with the representative, I'm used to Metro. Like I'm used to this phone provider. I know it. I know how the website works. I know how the stores work. I'm just used to it. And moving to something different was kind of like, ooh. And I thought about how we stay in situations that are familiar to us out of fear of moving. Good morning. We stay in situations that are familiar to us out of fear of moving on to the next level. Because we know it's easier. I think about that when it's going to be time for me to move, because it will be. And how I've been in this same apartment the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my entire life. Well, I mean, from 12 to 22, I lived in one place, but I was in boarding school, so I was kind of back and forth. But I can say that too, 12 to 22. So about 10 years there, 10 years here. And so much has happened here. My children grew up here. I got news that my ex-husband passed away here. It would be easy to stay right here and be comfortable. I know it. But the next level requires something different. And it can be frightening to leave behind what's familiar. Even like I said yesterday, even if we've outgrown it, it's human nature. So what I want to encourage you to do is to look, where in your life have you outgrown people, places, jobs, relationships? Where are you holding yourself back so that you can stay where it's safe? Let me turn that ringer off. Where are you holding yourself back so you can stay where it's safe, where you don't have to take a risk again, where you can be the big fish in the little pond, if you will? And particularly for my, like this applies to everyone, but particularly to my melanated family. Those of us who are descendants of people who were trafficked to this country, because we still have trauma flowing through our DNA after generations of fear-based psychological torture, we are often most afraid of leaving safety. And I mean, you can understand why, right? We're not debating the why or the how that happened. It's very, very clear. You can see it in one person, right? One person who's gone through a traumatic experience and how that PTSD can affect them. So now you're talking about generations of PTSD, right? I think we're all clear on how that affects people who are the descendants of those folks. And because there's duality in the world, we cannot continue to allow that fear to hold us back. So think of us like a person. Let's do that. Think of us like a person, man or woman, doesn't matter, who's gone through a traumatic event, a robbery. Someone breaks into the house, middle of the night, startles you. You move, you can't go back to that neighborhood. You stay in this small space. You get a little apartment. You don't want any other rooms. You want to be able to see everything. Maybe you move into a studio, because it's got to be really small. You have to feel really safe. You don't drive down that street where it happened. You don't have anything to do with where it happened. You stay far away from that. You stay in your safe zone, because every time you go someplace else, it just reminds you of that. And the panic and the fear that comes up is just too much. Very valid. Shows up in your body and your mind. Very valid. Happens to people of all kinds all the time. But now there's an opportunity for you that's near the area of the incident. It's the opportunity of growth. And you turn it down because of the fear. A very, like whatever example, but just something basic for melanated folk to begin to understand that as it's time for us to level up. And so we cannot continue to allow our fear of the unknown, our fear of needing to feel safe, to stop us from leveling up. I was in a group yesterday on this Clubhouse app, and it was Black men. And the one thing I love about the app is I get to listen to Black men in a room. I don't often get to listen to Black men in a room. Just not the nature of how my life is working at this time. And so I love Black men, love my brothers. And they were talking about building a better Black man. And one of them was talking about swimming, and how a lot of Black people don't know how to swim, and how learning how to swim what it does to you mentally helps you to not feel like you're going to drown in situations, helps you to understand how to pace yourself in situations, helps you to have opportunities open up to you. Like there are whole things that you're not going to stay away from because you don't know how to swim. And I loved that analogy and I thought it was beautiful. And I do think that everyone should learn how to swim. And I thought about us as a people and how we're afraid to swim. Takes me back to my switching the phone provider, because there are times when we're presented with ways to grow and expand, and it is frightening because we have generations of trauma flowing through us that somehow tell us in our body, no, that's scary, we can't do that. That no longer belongs to us. That pain, that trauma does not belong to us. This doesn't mean that there aren't things happening right now that constantly want to reactivate it. Because I'm real clear on the systems that exist. And I'm also clear that if you're watching this video, you are a descendant of people who went through shit that you can't even imagine. And you get to sit in front of this and watch someone else. They couldn't even imagine that. And so that means that you have freedoms to do things differently. But our fear, I feel it. I feel it sometimes, and I know it doesn't belong to me. I know it's not mine. And I know that it is a beautiful safety mechanism that was designed just to keep us alive, to survive. And we are still, many of us, in survival mode. There's nothing you can't have. You see an Oprah or a Tyler Perry or a LeBron James or Simone Biles, you know, a Quincy Jones, a Prince. You think that these people are anomalies. They are beacons of light and examples for you of what you can accomplish when you decide to level up, when you decide to align yourself with the truth of who you are. You're seeing the end result of their work. I posted a clip of Diana Ross, who was talking about how she had negative thoughts. This is like in the 70s. She was having this conversation. She said she has negative thoughts, they come in, but then she has a choice to make. You know, she's going to believe the negative or the positive. You see, even the people that you think have achieved something have self-doubt. They've learned how to rise above it. Now, they're not telling everybody what they're doing behind the scenes, maybe watching some Bob Proctor videos or doing some hypnotic meditation. They're doing work behind the scenes. You don't see it. What you see is LeBron James on the court doing something, thinking like, damn, he's got talent. Yes, and you don't see him getting up at 4:30 in the morning to practice. You see Tyler Perry and you think, man, he done made it. Yes, but you didn't see the 10 years, good Lord, of him putting out play after 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 play. Writing every single day, putting out some crap, putting out shit, putting out good stuff, shit, good stuff, shit. Didn't stop. You didn't see Oprah when she was a small town something in Chicago on some local show with folks telling her, ain't nobody want to see no fat Black woman. on TV. You didn't see that. You didn't see her writing her affirmations daily. You didn't see her shifting her mindset from someone who grew up in Podunk South with nothing to someone who was like, nah, I'm more than what everyone around me is telling me I am. You see the end result and then you sit back and go, I can never be Oprah. Mm-mm. Of course you can. Now I know you can't be Oprah, but you can be you doing what she does. And we have to stop that idolizing people who we think have made it somewhere as though they've put in no work, as though they weren't sitting somewhere crying one day too. We think that they're like superhuman people. Well, probably not Prince. I just can't see. That's like Prince came into the world like motherfuckers. I'm the shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like Prince had come here long enough, been here enough times that he slid into the world like, nah, I know what I'm here to do. I'm good. You know, I wish. The rest of us, we might have some climbing to do. There is nothing you cannot accomplish. The wealth and the luxury do not belong to a certain group of people, a certain set of people. That's false. And it doesn't only belong to people who are entertainers or athletes. That's false. It belongs to whomever is in alignment with themselves. It is when you are out of alignment with who you are that that's just not going to happen. It is when you try to live a small life when you were not meant to. And I don't mean be famous, right? Like notoriety and fame does not equal wealth or happiness. It's a lot of people who everybody knows who they are. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you living your best life to its fullest. And I'm telling you that there is no thing stopping you from doing that except for your own belief in the thing and allowing it to tell you that you can't achieve. So in the practical sense, yeah, some of the schools are fucked up. Teachers crappy. No belief in the students. If you're a parent, what can you do? Remind your child every day of their greatness. Take them out and homeschool them. Give them the classroom of Google and YouTube. Give them resources to learn about their history, not the history of just this country, because we got to stop that. Like we think Black people started in 1519, 1619. You think that's when Black people started? And if you think that, then yeah, that seems pretty dismal. Like, this is what I'm telling people, like, Black folks been here 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years, at least that long. Here's the timeline of our existence. And then this 450 year period of fuckery and debauchery and just trying to fuck with the minds of Black people. And then there's going to be a period after that. So are we going to let this period of time define the rest of our existence? Are we going to let, and I'm not taking away from the pain of what that is, right? It's the same thing when I speak to a client and they've experienced something traumatic, painful, it's in the body. And then the question is, but do you want that experience to now define the next 50 years of your life? So do we want that 450 years to continue to define our existence in this country? because I don't, especially not when there's like 30,000 years of existence before that that says otherwise. And to be clear, there's no going back, right? It's like a trauma victim. You can't go back to who you were before that. We had some wonderful kings and queens, and we had some fucking fuckery with kings and queens because we're human. We had some beautiful tribes and practices, and we had some barbaric, it's a whole continent, right? So the span of humanity was on that continent, right? It wasn't like utopia. But we can't go back. When trauma happens to you, you can't go back. Here you are and trauma, right? And so this is where you might have been without the trauma, and now this is you with it. Now, what existence will you create now with whatever that brought out of you, with wherever it took you? What can you now create? What life can you now make without allowing the trauma to define your existence? So what can we now do? Now do so that we don't allow that 450 years of trauma to define our experience, but knowing that we're not going back to whatever. And so just some of those practices we don't need to go back to, okay? Let's just be perfectly clear. But how are we building now? Now, we are not a monolith. We've been in this country too long. We are not as tribal as we used to be. Many of us have taken on the individualism that exists in this country. So trying to do this as a collective would be quite challenging. I personally don't see that happening. We didn't immigrate here and we have a community. You have people who are descendants of people who came from West Africa. You have people who are coming from Haiti, who've built their own customs and traditions based on what they still had from the Africans who came from West Africa. You have people of the Hispanic community, Latinx, who have customs based off of what they had from the people who came from West Africa. You have a whole hodgepodge of what's left of the folks who were brought here from their homes, who were kidnapped. That has splintered into so many different things, and in some ways, so many beautiful things, because the Yoruba became Candomblé, became Santeria, became Vodun, right? That we were able to take that and change it into different variations in order to keep it alive. So you're not going to get everybody who does Candomblé and Santeria and Vodun to kind of go back to doing what they did in West Africa. So we have to respect that. But what can we do to find commonality? These are just questions. And if we cannot find commonality or bring back some of that tribalism, then what we can at least do is be fucking responsible for our individual power. That is the very least each one of us can do, is to be responsible for our own individual sovereignty and power. Because in doing that, we shift things and we change things on a micro scale, daily, hourly. You do your mindset work. You begin to shift you shift what you do. Someone else does it, they shift them, they begin, and it starts to go out. We want it quick, we want it fast, we want it now. This is gonna take years. It is a long game. It took 450 years to get this mindset in. It might take another 150 years to get it out. There's no instant success here. But what you can do is level up. What you can do is begin to live in alignment with what your soul it has brought you here to do. And then in that way, you're also an example for someone else. But we cannot continue to live with the trauma of this and expect the people who, as a collective, who inflicted that trauma to somehow now save us. That just doesn't make no fucking sense. Like if you were in an abusive relationship with someone, do you expect your abuser to help you heal? Because they got their own shit, right? Because if they were abusing you, it's clear that they have their own mental health issues and they're not in a position to come save you. They need counseling. They need help. Not with you. Away from you. I'm not even going to get into that part. So for us to sit and think and wait for other people to see our value, to see our worth, if that were a woman, what would you say? A woman was like, I just want men to see my value and my worth. I want them to treat me the way I deserve to be treated. They don't treat me right. Tell them to treat me right. You'd be like, girl, treat yourself right. So what? Come on, y'all. Come on. All right. I'm going to leave y'all with that. It's time to level up. I hear talk that the 21st is something about activating melanated people. I don't know much about that. I honestly haven't followed it. I feel like I need to do some research on it because I keep seeing memes and things about it, how we're connected to Saturn, I believe it is, as a collective. I think that's really interesting. I didn't really think about groups of people being connected to certain planets. I know that groups of people can tend to be connected to certain elements, which I find interesting. And in some of the lineage that I've learned, you know, melanated people are very much water signs. We're very emotional, you know. And, you know, we want to give to everyone else at the expense of ourselves. But I don't know, you know, so that's all very interesting to me. But it's time for us to level up. If it's not done as a collective, it's not done as a collective. That doesn't negate you from doing it as an individual, though. Oh, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Man, we need to be doing that. Okay, well, what are you doing? What are you doing on a daily basis besides talking about what we need to do? I can tell you what I'm doing. Like I sit in meditation. I come on here to hopefully spread some wisdom, joy, happiness, arousal. You know, I do little things. I do my best to raise my children, you know, in a way that will benefit society. There are individual things you can do that assist the collective, even if the collective hasn't come together yet. And again, we're too all over the place now. We're not the same people. We're not the same people. So that might not, there might be clumps here and there. Right? All right. I love you all. Go listen to Ciara's song. Go level up. I would have played it, but then Facebook would have banned the video. So, all right. I will see you back here earlier tomorrow than I was. I overslept today. I'll see you back here tomorrow. I love you.